The Indie Council is in session. Welcome, everyone. Don't laugh at me, Mike. He pushed the button like a second before I said I was ready. And
Mike, you could push the button whenever you want. Clicked. Oh my God.
This is like classic manager energy from Jill. Like, I know I said it could be when you wanted, but like I really felt like you would know when I actually wanted it.
Wow.
Don't gaslight me on this podcast, Jill.
This is the place for leading voices from across the industry to gather to talk news, titles, and everything indie. I'm your master of ceremonies, Jill Grote, the Indie Informer, and joining the council today, creative director of 61 Indie and account executive at Vicarious PR, Mike Towndrow.
Hello.
How you doing?
Swell.
You just celebrated an anniversary. Yay!
I did. 7 years with the tattoo lady.
Nice.
Weird. It feels like a month.
Yeah, I know. I totally understand that.
Yeah, it's strange.
And gave her the best present ever, and you're not going to be able to outdo yourself.
Yeah, I got to figure something out. I screwed myself for all future holidays and anniversaries.
Also joining us, creator of Pen to Pixels and Min-Max cohort, Janet Garcia.
Hello.
How you doing there, Janet?
Good.
She's keeping all of the words in for later. I know in the doc I'm looking down.
Well, we always like meander with these things. So I'm like, okay,
No
like
meandering.
I thought we would
to
be
the next person.
sorry, I tried to, I was trying to keep it going.
How dare we have conversations on a podcast, you know?
Get out of here.
The gall.
Too many games, too many conversations, and only one more host. That is senior gaming editor at Digital Trends and host of Left Trigger, Right Trigger, Giovanni Colantonio.
Hey, how's it going? Great to be here on the little council.
I've never actually said your last name out loud. Did I do okay?
You actually did a great job. My mother, she'll be very proud when she does not listen to this, but if she did, she would be so proud.
She'll send me something nice to eat. I hope.
And the fifth host, Gio's mom.
Here she is.
What a reveal.
She can't figure out how to get in the room. She's a little bit confused by computers.
She's like climbing into the window.
Yeah.
So for anybody who does not know Giovanni, who I will call Gio for the rest of this podcast so people don't get confused, we are going to do a tradition that we have here at the Indie Council by doing a rapid fire interview / would you rather. Giovanni has not seen any of these questions ahead of time, so he's in the hot seat. Is everybody ready to go?
I think. I'm terrified.
Okay.
I don't know why you asked everybody. I don't think me and Jen are involved.
I was thinking about that, but I was going to say,
be prepared too. I don't know, like
we kind of just stand around with like our cloaks and we like watch Jill perform the ceremony.
It feels like a dark sacrifice. Ritual.
Yeah.
Okay, Gio.
Yes.
Would you rather spend the night in a constantly activated game scent, or spend the night in the crush house with a room full of watchful chorbies?
I mean, obviously the second one, because I tested the game scent for work, and I couldn't go like 15 seconds with the game scent. Like it bested me very quickly, and I do think that if the options there would have been, would you rather spend a night with the game scent or died? It probably would have been like a still an easy question, but maybe like slightly harder.
Harder.
So I'll take the chorbies any time of the week.
Okay. Chorby boy right here.
Oh, yeah.
Would you rather feed donuts to a gathering of angry cyclopses or pie to a horde of armed gnats?
Armed gnats? Armed with what?
Knives, specifically.
Whatever they could find.
Gnats with knives? Are they gnat-sized knives?
They're huge knives.
How are they holding them?
Oh, my God.
They're really strong, then.
Yeah, the Cyclopses.
The Cyclopses. They're angry. They're in anger management. That's where they're doing.
I think, we'll go with the Cyclopses because, like, they might even have trouble seeing me if they're going to attack me, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
Giovanni, can you name the reference from that last question?
Was that from Mars After Midnight?
Yes, it was Mars After Midnight.
I got you. Yeah. I was like, gnats with knives sounds really specifically familiar.
Okay. Next question, getting a little harder.
Okay.
Did you or did you not get admonished by a fellow publication's high-ranking staff member for asking an audacious question about the Indie Informer at the Game Awards?
What? I'm sorry. This has turned into some kind of interrogation that I wasn't prepared for. I got admonished about it.
Admonished.
Who admonished?
Absolutely.
I don't. I have the memory span of a goldfish, and if this has happened, I am not a. I don't
also
remember.
at one point at this event actually took alcohol away from you and gave you water.
That was very nice because I don't drink alcohol. so that was a really kind thing of you to do if that was the case.
Yes.
Yes, this sounds like something that probably happened, and
it absolutely happened, ladies
yeah,
and
it seems like
gentlemen.
it did.
Gio, what's your favorite god in Hades 2? And does your favorite correspond with how much skin they're showing?
Oh my god,
Wow.
no, it does not correspond with how much skin they're showing. I think, maybe. That's such a hard question. I want to say,
You're trying to think of someone that has more clothes, aren't you? You're
Yeah.
like,
I'm
oh
trying to think of someone
man,
that has
so
a
many,
lot of clothing.
so many
Not
clothed
afraid.
gods running through my mind right now.
The one with the most, well, no, I very, very sincerely, because I think my favorite god is Hestia. And I say that
yeah.
because my first successful run I had in Hades 2 was like a total, like, all Hestia upgrades build, which is like all it actually takes. Like the sexiness, cool, that's great, I love that for everybody. But like, man, if you give me some good boons that cause me to wreck house, we're best friends forever. I don't know
You
that
heard it here, everybody. Gio likes some good boons.
I like good boons, not okay. We'll continue.
Are you secretly turning Digital Trends into an indie site from the inside?
I am trying so hard. Yeah, I mean, I am in control of that. Yeah, we you know what? I like us to have really well-rounded coverage, and I hate when gaming sites only do the big 5 games that come out in a year. It's a pet peeve of mine, and I think that we owe it to our readers to show them the broad spectrum of games. So the answer to that is yes, and it's not a secret at all. I will tell anybody, including our CEO, that I'm doing it, and they'll say what's going on, and then that's it.
Yep. Okay, last question. Gio,
Yes.
I need you to look into the camera.
Okay, there it is. Hi.
Do you remember the maze?
I think about the maze. I've thought about the maze every day for like 2 months. So yes,
know.
I
I need
definitely
to text you
remember
more
the
about
maze.
the maze too.
I will answer. I was helping 1,000 people play Lorelei and the Laser Eyes over the past couple weeks as they finished it for review, and we will talk about that so much. But I remember the maze because no one will let me forget.
I can't. The maze is in my head forever. Okay.
That's
you
me.
made it through. Do you feel better?
I feel really good, except for the one in the middle where I apparently had been admonished.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, that's fine.
It's a little frightening.
All in good fun.
Yeah, I know.
Is it?
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on.
Welcome.
Let's move over to indie news. We took a break last week because May 9th was so over the top. We had a lot to do. So let's talk about how all of those May 9th games are kicking ass. Little Kitty Big City has now, as of 48 hours being released, sold 100,000 units, and I'm sure very much more by now. Greg Miller called Cryptmaster ingenious on the Kind of Funny Games cast.
Small creator,
1,000?
you know,
Yeah.
shouting it out.
Small PlayStation person. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Probably heard it from us and just, took it.
Honestly, I mean,
I
I don't know. we were, we got our hands on the pulse.
It's true.
Well,
Yeah. I mean, Greg Miller, this sheep out here,
Come at us, Greg. Now I've lost my spot. 1,000 times resist Steam's page is graced with Janet Garcia playing with the devs.
Is it?
It is.
Yes.
Go to the
Yep.
Steam page
Though-
and she is
saw that when I
right
bought
there.
it.
I technically didn't play with the devs, but I did like play on their behalf. They, it was a opportunity to go ahead and do that. Usually they have themselves doing it, but they're like, oh, we're kind of really slammed right now. So if you want to partner with us for it, come through. So yeah, there's a shout out / disclosure. It's a twofer. I thought it's nice to finally, we have a lot of disclosures on this show. It's nice to finally have a little disclosure moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone needs
I
their
love
own
it.
disclosure.
Crow Country is overwhelmingly positive on Steam with
Hell yeah.
99% of the votes recommended.
Hell
That's
yeah.
wild.
That rules.
Absolutely wild.
A PSX grunge horror indie? Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can get 100% recommended. Like, I
Probably
think
not.
99 is the highest I've ever seen, except for like maybe a game that only has one vote and they upvoted it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that would be the workaround.
Okay, and then Animal Well is currently the highest scored indie of the year according to Metacritic, and I think at this point it's still the second highest rated game of the year.
Overall, yeah.
Like
It's up there.
no indie necessary, depending on whether or not other games overtake it. And of course, we're going to be talking about a lot of other games, and we're going to be looking forward to a lot of other games. So we will see. But y'all, what are your best memories playing these games? And I kind of want to start with Janet on this one because she took the word best and sort of rolled with it.
Well, I thought best, like most vivid. I also thought this was going to be specifically about Animal Well because of the indentation. I did also like Little Kitty Big City, but I only wrote about Animal Well.
Yeah.
Yeah, my memory was it's weird because Animal Well is such a like a mechanical spoiler based game that it's like, how much do we want to really get into it? So I'll just say like the cute abilities. There are one thing I really like, especially in the Metroidvania genre, which is a very saturated genre, when abilities can surprise me. And one thing that's really cool about Animal Well is you don't know what you're going to be getting. Like, there's no way I could have guessed what kind of stuff you get, and they're all very cute and they're very interesting. And also getting trophies through natural discovery, I think, you know, whether or not you care about trophies aside, the idea of baking into the design a task for players that ends up being naturally done by way of either experimentation or the joy of pursuing like fringe activities. It feels really good, not just to be like, oh, look, I found like a little hidden thing, but it also for me feels good in that, wow, like look at how the design is so naturally supporting my creativity and my curiosity. And that's something that's really exciting. And then I also added, this is the part I think Jill was referring to, also beating it, because I will see Animal Well in Animal Hell. By the end of this game, this is such a funky game for me because it is, I just talked about this briefly on MinMax. I called it's a cursed recommendation for me because it is a great game. I feel like that's pretty, you know, I mean, opinions are going to be people's opinions, but I feel like that's pretty undeniable that it is at least a great game, if not higher than that. That being said, though, it like annoyed the hell out of me by the end. It was like the Metroid Dread thing I had, where it's like I loved Metroid Dread. I was like, that was great. I never want to do that again. And I kind of like hate like the true mark of an annoying game is that like you don't just hate the game by the end, you hate yourself. Like it kind of like I miss who I was.
That's why we're in
before I miss who I was before I experienced this game. Where like I do feel like it is, you know how like they have like those like, you know, think of freaking what is it, like any like old horror kind of like movie thing or setup where it's like, oh, like you can have this and you'll wield great power, but also like you'll be cursed for ages. That's this game. It's like, yeah, exactly. This game is, if you're very into puzzles, I think it seemed from all like the puzzle sickos I've talked to, they're like, oh no, it's great. I'm eating it up. I'm shoveling more. You don't want to finish yours? Hand me over a slice. I'm kind of mixing food types in here, right? They all seem to vibe with it. So I can acknowledge that like maybe I'm, you know, 2 steps removed from like the intended market in a sense, right? But I do like puzzle games. It's like I like a little bit. I'm fine with Metroidvanias. So it's just like, you know, I had so much fun at certain parts, and then it's like, oh man, I kind of wish it was a little different, but like it's really cool. Like, I'm having a good time. And then at a certain point, you look around, and you're like, I don't think I'm having a good time anymore. There's still time left. Oh man, like let's just get through it. You know, it was like I really got to that point where, you know, I was just having Isaiah just shepherd me through. I'm like, how do I get it? Where is it? I'm like, go ahead and let me guess what's it gonna be. Like I was just insufferable by the end of this game. Why you design so many puzzles that require you to go across multiple screens? My number one pet peeve in puzzle games is when it takes too long to try new stuff. Like to encourage trying a bunch of different things and then make trying anything so continuously annoying. I can't stand behind it. I don't know. I don't support it, but I did live it, and I guess it's good, right? It's a great game. Like I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like a weird spot. So that's me in Animal Well.
Yeah, 100%. I'm gonna need you to read
close delete
verbatim.
Immediately.
I'm gonna need you to read the
this passage
right there. I'm gonna need you to read that passage right there.
I said hell is empty and all the devils are puzzles that require fireworks. And the spoilers for one of the actually it's the first ability you get.
Yeah, it's first
fireworks.
Yeah.
And the fireworks are several screens over. Spread also, mind you, it's like 1 on one screen, 2 screens later the second one. You can only hold 3 at a time. And when you die, you have to collect them all over again. You keep repeating this. But tell me again how good the design of this game is.
I will say, I think this is like a totally fair criticism. I love the game, and I'll have plenty of praise about it. But I remember the one thing that I didn't love is when I got into like the second layer, like of deep secrets, where like you really hit a point where you're on like an Easter egg hunt of sorts, perhaps literally. It kind of becomes a game about like, I'm going to track through every room that I've been in 100 times, 10 more times, and try and figure out the thing that I missed in the room. If there's a thing I missed in the room, but I don't know if I missed a thing in the room. And I definitely agree that aspect of it, especially if you're just kind of like playing it alone and disconnected from the community, becomes like a slog. And when I was playing it, I was like ahead of other reviewers because we got it like a month out.
Yeah.
And I was like, pretty ahead of people. So there were no like conversations happening at that point of like, how do I do X, Y, and Z? And it did get like pretty frustrating at some point to be like, well, I guess let me just go through the entire map again. And I just got this new item. Like, I guess I'll just use it in every single room and hope that the one, it works in one of them. So I totally get that. I think it does get like to be a little bit of a pain with its kind of backtracking setup. But it's also like very clearly built for like one person finds something and shares it with a bunch of other people, which is really cool. Unless you're not doing that part, because there's nothing in the game that would tell you that like, hey, go to the Discord and talk to people. So I think it's a double-edged sort of like wanting to make a game that is built around community, really cool. But like if your players aren't in the community, the game still has to be like, enjoyable on its own. And I think that is like a struggle that it has. That's like my one critique with it.
So what
Also,
was it like being in that community, Gio?
Yeah, it was great. So basically the setup of it was they gave it to critics like really far in advance. It was like a full month out from release, and they immediately were like, we set up a Discord for this. And immediately I was like, wow, this is how everything should be done. This is great. This is so much ample time and like so much like communication and like tools right off the bat. It was great. Loved it. And I think the first couple of weeks it was very slow. Everyone was still in like the first layer of the game, and I'm gonna just use that term to talk about it. If you haven't played it yet, there's the game, and then there's like actually the game, and then there's like actually the game. It's like it's very
so many secrets.
It's
I mean, is it fair to say that, because this is how they described it in their like the review, the kit, or I guess if you want to call it that. The first layer is just beating the game. The second layer is 100%ing, and the third layer is, I don't know, some other stuff. Like some like the way I joke about it, it's like everyone puts their games next to each other, and then like they start to glow. I don't know. Like I'm not sure that third layer is, but it's sort of like I don't know. You're like seeing deeper things in the game.
The Sonic 3 and Knuckles of indie games.
Sure, it's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
But those are the first. So I feel like the first two are pretty. It's like fairly comprehensible to parse.
The first two parts you can kind of get on your own, and that's the kind of stuff that I did alone. But like, yeah, with once more people were playing, and like in the last 2 weeks of the game especially, and people started to come together to solve the community things, that's where it became clear like how boundlessly cool parts of the game are, and like there are secrets in it that like I think even the developer was like, we just didn't think you guys would find this at this point. This was like a much deeper secret that like has been found immediately. And like truly obscure things that I won't spoil, but like some things that like you would potentially never ever in a million years find it unless you were in a very specific setup. And that aspect was really cool when like in that group, and there was a really fun energy in like the 2 weeks building up to it where it was like, hey, I found this piece, does anyone know like what this is? And someone being like, I remember seeing something that this might go with. And that community collaboration I think was like so cool and fascinating to be a part of, and that was really exciting. And the most fun I had with the game like wasn't even really playing it, but just like reading along with that and having people find those things and be like, oh yeah, interesting, like I noticed this too, like whoa. And like somebody finds a secret, and there was always something that would happen in the Discord where like somebody would come in one day with like a new discovery and say something, and everyone would be like, we don't know if you're joking, like we don't know if this is just like you like jerking us around at this point, because like the level of like weird off the rails stuff that happens in the game like sounds like a meme at some point, but like it is just stuff that's in it. And so that experience I think was like really fantastic and made me appreciate the game a lot more. But again, the counterbalance of that is like, that's not how 99% of people are going to play the game. Like, I'm glad it has like a pretty big, sizable Discord community who is doing that. But like, also we had probably like, like 15 active people, 20 active people. That one has like way more, and it's impossible to follow the conversation in it. And so I think it's ambitious to do that setup, and I'm glad that like people got really into it and solved some of the like crazy stuff in it. I a tough selling point though. I don't know. Like I just don't know that anyone will actually experience the game in like the perfect way that reviewers experience the game. And that's something that I tried to like couch a little bit in the review, because I think that like it's easy. It was easy coming from the review period to be like, this game's incredible. Wait till you play it, and then like actually have people get their hands on it and be like, I don't understand what's happening, and I can't follow the Discord that's set up for it.
Right. I think I had very similar feelings for this as I did for Tunic for very similar reasons. There was that review period where you had the Discord ahead of time, and it was a large enough but small enough community where everyone was kind of like, "Oh my god, did you see this? Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing," and that kind of excitement. But I didn't review this game for us. John did an excellent job, so I didn't get in with any of the review stuff. I didn't get into the reviewers' Discord, so I just started playing it May 9th with everybody else. And so I've been in the chat just with the indie council, just being like, "Hey guys, I just found this thing. Where am I in the game? Am I far?" And everyone just being so excited and being like, "You don't, yay, Jill, you're doing it." So that's just been like one of the most fun things about Animal Well for me. And it's so hard to put down because as soon as you get that new thing, I mean, Giovanni, you talked about it as sort of a bad thing of like going back and trying out new toys in different areas,
Yeah.
but like that is also kind of a pro for me.
Yeah.
Like getting a new thing and being like, "Oh, this is probably going to help at that thing," and then finding along the way that it does a whole different thing you didn't expect it to do as well, because they're not, the things that you get are on the face of it. You can say like, "Oh, okay, I understand this." But then they always have some kind of secondary hidden skill
Yeah.
or something that causes something to happen, and it's just, I can't believe that one person developed it and thought all the way through it, and it's astounding. It really is.
It also just like the movement tech in it, where it's like, hey, you get this like bubble wand, and like it allows you to jump on a bubble, but like the way you can break that in a certain way, and the way that you can like pair that with a different item and use it in a way that like nobody would think, like the it is so clearly built for speedrunners in mind, and like very explicitly built for speedrunners in mind at some point. And I think they really put so many good creative tools in it to make that happen. And I do love that about it a lot. Like the first time I invented my own movement tech in the game, where I was like, oh my god, I just figured out how to like sequence break this game, and then later I found out like, yeah, that's intended. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
cool. Oh, great. Okay, awesome. You made me feel very smart. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. Mike, you also had a motion related thing, but a little different.
Yeah, so I haven't had too much time to play yet. Foolishly, this email to get keys got buried during a 6-Foot Indie Showcase
No.
and PAX East, so I totally missed the window. I was talking to Billy and Madison, which is a weird combination to put out there. The developer Billy and his partner Madison, during PAX East, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're on the list for keys," and I was just waiting for the email. So yeah, only started it like the other day. I'm about 45 minutes into it. Like I barely had time to really scratch the surface. But yeah, the tech is astounding. I think the most notable thing I've noticed on playing on PlayStation, this is how you use the DualSense. Like this is how developers should utilize this tech. Just the subtle movements and the subtle movements that you feel with the vibration and that you hear out of the speaker. Like it's not obnoxious, it's not scratchy, it's not distorted, it's not totally in your face, but it adds a layer of immersion that I haven't really experienced before in a game, whether it's AAA or indie. I was like totally blown away by that. And again, it's such a minimal thing, but man, this is how you use that PS5 tech.
I think
Mhm.
2 things to quickly note about that. One, it's on PlayStation Extra if you have
Yes.
the PlayStation Plus tier 2. Because I got code for this, but then there were so many things I was reviewing in the meantime that I wasn't able to get to it. So then I ended up just playing on PlayStation when it came out. So that's one thing. And then to kind of build on what you threw out there, Mike, I think the sound design in this game is really incredible. And
Yeah.
I think it's my lead for like sound. I always think in terms of like 3 or 4 different things, right? There's like R awards, there's like my own top 10 list, there's like min max, and there's like the Keeleys, right? So it's like that one has a sound design category. I think this has like some of the best sound design that I've seen this year. I think part of that is also that it has kind of like an eerie undertone to it. And I always say that some of the best sound design is always horror, because horror, there's just so much going on that you can really play with different noise, and so much of like fear is noise driven. But just like the atmosphere of how they make, and obviously like the art goes a long way. It's kind of the sum of the parts, right? But I really think without the sound design, Animal Well would not be as like charming and like immediately like grabbing as it is, just because like you sit in that game and it's like some of the best background noise ever. I think the sounds for when you use your evolving tool set are like incredibly playful, and I think
Mhm.
all of those things help support both the like naturalistic emphasis of Animal Well with also the weird messed up things that happen, with also like the cute little delightful things that happen. And it's this really wonderful medley of all these different things coming together. And I think to me the through line is the sound in this game, and it was really fun playing it that way. My cat didn't really like the game at certain parts because I think some of the sounds were a little scary. So it's like, and we were playing like on 2 TVs. It's funny because like I have 2 TVs in my living room, and me and Isaiah were both playing at the same time. Whenever I post about, people are like, wear headphones if you, and I love sound and I love music. Like I just don't like wearing headphones when I game. Like I don't know, I get scared really easily. So I'm like, I just don't want to wear headphones. People are like, what do you do for sound having 2 TVs? I'm like, what do you mean? Just play. It's just there's just sound. It's surround sound, baby. Like it's just whatever's coming out is what's there. I don't know. It doesn't bother us. I mean, it says more about us than it does about the TVs, but I don't know. That is what it is. But yeah, love the sound design in that game.
100%. Speaking of games that your cat may or may not like, perhaps might like better, Little Kitty Big City. I want to really shout out. I mean, it's a great game. It just for existing in, just for enjoying charm. Having a good day. If you're having a bad day and you want to feel better, like this is a great game for that. But I specifically want to shout out the camera mode for Little Kitty Big City, because I spent way too much time playing around with it, and I actually built my preview around all of the pictures that I took from the game directly during my playthrough. So I was like running around, sort of. It was a kind of self-directed achievement in a way, because I was
Mhm.
like, find the best preview or review screenshots or something. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just got like a fruit hat, and like there are a bunch of fruit in this store. So I'm gonna sit next to the fruit and pretend like I'm
Nice.
a fruit. I'm like, oh my god, that's perfect. Oh, there's like, I managed to get up high, and there's a sign up high of a little rice ball. I'm gonna wear the rice ball hat, and I'm gonna sit there. I'm like, I'm just a cat with a rice ball. Like, there's nothing better than that. Like, it's just something that puts a smile on your face. And I don't know if y'all tried the Little Kitty Big City.
Yeah.
Like, it has a dedicated meow button. I don't know if y'all tried that in front of your cats, but my cats
Yeah.
like definitely responded to it.
I appreciate that there's a big stretch. It's a
Big
There's a big
stretch.
stretch.
Important. I like that
It's
there's
very
zoomies.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a lovely experience with that game because the timing just ended up being really great on it, because I got it like a week into living in. I just moved into a new apartment, and I went from like a 1-bedroom apartment to like a 2-bedroom that's like a railroad, so there's like a lot more space. And my cat has like only ever known life in box bedroom. She came from the streets and came to box bedroom.
Mhm.
And like her I thought I knew her personality for like 4 years. It was like, yeah, she's like a lazy cat. She just like sleeps around all day, the house, and she sits on the couch, and she sits here, and she sits with me, and she's like, a little clingy. And I was like, cool. And when I moved into the new apartment, I realized like, oh, she's a completely different cat now. Like she's suddenly so active. She gained the ability to open doors, which like is terrifying. She just like evolved in the new apartment. She just started like gaining all these new skills, and she was so much more energetic and independent and everything. And I was like, whoa. And it was really nice playing like during that process of like seeing my cat change, because like that's kind of what that game is about, right? It's like, hey, this cat in this game is being like put into this larger space that it's not used to, and like it is about this cat like finding its own kind of personality and voice and whatnot, and growing. It's like a coming of age story for cats, and that's so beautiful. So I was just like playing it at my desk, like on Switch, and I would just like look up every like 5 minutes and just like see what my cat was doing and be like, oh, now she's over there doing a fun thing. Oh, now she's back over that way doing a fun thing. And it was just like a very sweet and sincere experience that like made me appreciate like what that game is kind of getting at, and it like beneath the kind of like just like cute cartoon shenanigans of it. It's like, yeah, my cat's also doing cute cartoon shenanigans right now because like she's excited about a new space. I get it.
The final surprise of the game where you're asked to do something, I don't want to like spoil it for anybody. It actually hit me so much emotionally harder than I expected. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do the thing. I'm so excited that I get to.
It's actually a big kitty in a little city.
It's actually a huge kitty. Actually, one of my review pictures was in the toy shop. There's like a diagram of a city with a bunch of tanks and stuff, and I made my cat look like a giant kaiju, and it was adorable.
That's cute.
Can we talk about how beautiful that game is, by the way? That's like literally like a Disney animated film. Like it's stunning.
Yeah, I think the animations are great. They're really good. It's a game that like I wanted to write a review, but I was you know how it is like to actually write something like it's so like
Christ.
like my
just reminding
it's the
everyone
worst.
all these games came out on the same day.
I know.
So.
But like I beat it like in time. I was like, okay, it's all gonna happen, and then it just you know how it is. But that was
part to your review in August.
Yeah, honestly, I'm trying to get more on that life because
There's nothing wrong with that.
But then the problem of that is like you end up still like then you're backlogged kind of forever. So at a certain point you do I don't know. I'm figuring it out.
Listen, man, July at the moment looking pretty goddamn good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's not Little Kitty's problem, I guess, to deal with. But yeah, like writing up notes on this, like the animations like really stand out to me, and I think I hope more people check this game out and like really look at are open-minded to like what a great game can be, because I do think Little Kitty Big City is a great game that is admittedly like a little like basic in terms of like what is it like the sell. I think so many people are gonna look at this and be like, oh, so like it's great because it's really cute, whatever, and like it is really cute, and we kind of had this conversation before about like cute games getting dismissed, but it's also like really smartly designed and also does that stuff that I just again not saying it's the same level of game, but like the stuff I applauded in Animal Well, where like getting to naturalistically find things that it's very clear, like the developers like, yeah, I knew you'd do that. I knew you'd eventually do that. And that's why we have like a little achievement pop. Like Little Kitty Big City is very centered on that as well, where it's an exploration game and the exploring is like superb. It's like one of my favorite places to like navigate around. It took me way longer to beat it than I think it was supposed to on like that long to beat. Like I didn't come 100% in. I was still like way over the count, but I didn't really notice because it was just so like fun doing everything. And I think it really, despite being technically under the hood a checklist game, it really subverts the checklist genre by hiding the checklist without obscuring the path to progression, which I think is really hard to do. And I feel like too many people aren't going to do that extra step of appreciation when they see this or when they play it, because again, on its surface, yeah, like it's a cat and you're cute and you do cat things, but there's so much brilliance that goes into that. So yeah, if people are, I really hope more people play this and applaud it, because I think it has really, really smart design and cool detail. And there's like a freaking, when you unlock the stamina meter to climb, I'm like, oh my God, it's Breath of the Wild. Like, here we go. Like, I love stamina in games and like getting to explore and use that as like the carrot on the stick. And I don't know, there was so much cool stuff going on with this title Yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Really appreciated it.
This feels like cut from the same cloth as like a Short Hike and like Little Gator Game. You know, like
Yeah.
it feels like a very
Yeah.
similar
Yeah.
design philosophy of like, what if we took the open world game and made it like not the most exhausting thing in the world? Like, what if it
Mhm.
really was like a nice space and that you wanted to find everything in? Like, wouldn't that be good? And it's like, yeah, it's that worked for all three of those games. Like that
That's a
formula is
great
really
pull.
great.
You're totally right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I think we'll probably talk a little bit about more about Cryptmaster down below.
Yeah.
But I just want to shout out that Cryptmaster's card game slaps, and I love it. I like every single chance I get. The card game is called Whatever. So any chance I get to talk to another character in the game, like first thing is like, whatever. Are you gonna play? You have card games? Am I gonna beat you? And then I usually do because all my cards are amazing. Uh, and I got to at one point a town where they sell some cards, and I was like, I'm selling all my souls. I don't care if I can use any of my moves. I don't care if I can heal. I want all the cards in this card game. So yeah, we'll talk about Cryptmaster more down below, but those are the May 9th games that we all got to enjoy. So I hope everybody else had fun. I mean, it's so cool to have so many different and high level indie games dropping on the same day. So basically, if you are at all interested in games, you've got a game represented here that you should go check out. So go check them out. Moving on to from games to games, there are a lot of Steam Fests going on right now.
Never ends.
It never ends. So we just finished up this week with Ludonarracon, which ran from May 9th to May 13th, but a lot of those demos are still up. We are moving into Endless Replayability Fest, which is May 13th, and it goes until May 20th, which is next Monday. And then I just I knew that it was coming, but I just looked up at the dates. Summer Steam
Yeah.
Next Fest is happening from June 10th to June 17th, which hits real squarely in the middle of Summer Game
Well,
Fest.
it's like more at the end, no? Because like Monday is like the last day, which is June.
Yeah.
Everybody
June 10th,
listening,
right?
pray for your local PR people.
Yep.
We are
Pray for 'em.
struggling at the moment. It is a
It's so
rough season,
bad.
y'all. And Janet, a conversation we're having internally is like, hey, developer, brace yourselves because day one of Next Fest, Ubisoft has their goddamn conference, so all the air is going to get sucked out of the room.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
Assholes.
Yeah. I'm already getting emails, and I think wisely, because I'm not going to be able to get to these while I'm in LA, essentially. Like, that's going to be Summer Game Fest time, and then traveling back and probably giving myself some time to like decompress and then writing about whatever I saw. So like, it's going to be a harsh one. But it's going to be interesting, Good luck to all of us.
Thanks.
It's kind of ominous.
But I do want to shout out a couple of previews or demos that I tried during these fests, and I think all of the ones that I've listed are still up. So definite shout out to Yes Your Grace Snowfall, which is the follow-up to Yes Your Grace. It is a totally new game, and it kind of starts off from where the last one ended. They have a really good way of reminding you everything that happened in the first game and setting you off. They have some interesting new changes to how you handle juggling everything and what the drama sort of is. And Yes Your Grace is a very special game to the Indie Informer. It is one of the first games that I played as like streaming, and it's where my community's off with their head symbol comes from. Which has unfortunately or greatly become one of the sayings of the Indie Informer as I stream. So there's that. Also, I want to shout out Fishbowl,
Yes.
which so good. Mike, please talk about Fishbowl.
Oh, I haven't played it or anything. You should
No.
talk about it. They're very cool people. They're great. I've been talking to them behind the scenes a lot lately.
Yeah. Literally, as I shouted out Fishbowl on my social media, it was like a second within that the devs came in and was like, yay, we're so excited you're playing. You are a character who's just moved kind of to the big city, gotten a big job,
They're a little kitty.
busy. They are a little kitty. They've just endured a sort of loss of a close family member, and they go to bed and wake up realizing that a toy fishbowl from the deceased family member is now talking to them. And in my playthrough, I made that sound really creepy, and it sounds really creepy to me. So, but it's so sweet, and it's gonna punch you in the gut and make you feel things. And the writing is all really funny and really good. I'm super excited about people going to check that out. So please go check out Fishbowl. Also, last shout out from me is going to be Phase Factory. And it is, I'm getting like messages. I can hear it in my.
We're just talking on the side. No worries.
Everybody, pay attention.
It's related to something on the dock. Talk about Phase.
Okay, I'm talking about Phase Factory. It is such a bizarre mixture of things, and I love it so much. It is a commentary, a super, super poignant commentary on capitalism and what that does to people and how people get caught up in it. But it's also a factory management building sim and a sort of magical RPG turn-based game. So, like, your first job is to help this sorcerer for who your factory works for defeat another sorcerer, and during the battle, it's your job to manufacture spells for them to attack the other sorcerer. But the sorcerers both represent factories, which represent companies which have larger political things going on. So as you lead up to this battle between the two, you have like all of this stuff that you have to go through. It's kind of like a D&D session where you go from level to level and you're sort of like trying to get people to do stuff for you and trying to are you interested in money? Are you interested in being like anti-capitalism, anti-establishment, or are you trying to keep your job? Or and it's all
wow, those are the two options. Jeez.
I mean, there are a lot of
I mean, it'd be like that sometimes.
It runs the gambit.
I'm like, look, I'm someone different on Slack than I'm on Discord. You know what I mean? Like, hey,
gotta get that money,
your company can read those messages in case people are listening. It's good.
Friendly
reminder. Slack is not a safe space.
Yeah. It's such an interesting game wrapped up in the structure of these sorts of genres, but kind of breaking through all of them. So I really, really, really want people to go and check out Phase Factory because it is so bizarre and cool, and it is a game that is unique. And you play so many games in this industry that you don't see like as many of these wildly unique games. So please go check that out.
Hearing you describe it, I'm sure the gameplay is way different, but hearing you describe this reminds me of the other game that you played that was like that weird factory game.
Oh yeah.
What is that game?
That one was so
you remember
different.
That
was.
I know it's like wait, it's just like see you being like it's like I don't know, now I'm like forming the archetype in my mind of like weird spin on factory. Like you're gonna dominate like the factory lane of like
That's me. Factory genre, I've got it.
Yeah, emerging style, but
it was a number, and I can't remember what the number was, but that was a great game too. I'll put it in the doobly-doo. Y'all can check it out. But yeah, whereas that one was just sort of like a mystery in your head, are you going crazy sort of game?
Sure, yeah.
This one is a little more just exploring humanity.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, someone's got my number and is sending me things that they know I'm going to be into.
Sweet.
Can I shout out one more that you wrote on this list?
Yes, you may.
Mothman 1966.
Oh yeah, that was
slaps.
me.
That was Janet.
Hi, yeah, I
Go for it, Janet.
Well, okay, cool, and then feel free to chime in. Cool. I am a fake gamer, so I did not play a bunch of demos at Lunaricon, but Jill, thanks for being on top of that. But I want to look through and see for like slightly deeper cuts of like games we don't talk about as often. So I threw up Lake on there, even though I think I've talked about Lake before. You know, you're a postal worker. I love that game so much. And that's a game where it's like, is this like one of the greatest games ever? No. Is it a good game that I love to pieces? Hell yes. It is so fun to just like go around and be a postal worker, and you can have your Blockbuster girlfriend, and it's just a fun time. Mothman 1966. I feel like I maybe also talked about this on the show before, but it is this is from Pixel Pulp. They're doing a or it's like a, you know, Pixel Pulp style game from LCB Game Studio, and they're doing like, this is an anthology. This is basically what I wanted. Oh my gosh, what is it? The Until Dawn people, what are they making? They're making that series.
The
God.
Dark
Pictures Anthology.
There it is.
Yes. This is what and hey, like I'm going to play Dark Pictures Anthology until they stop making them, because I'm going down with that ship. Like, I do not care. But this is like what I wanted that to be, where it's like good decisions, interesting storyline. Like, this is such a cool, funky game that, like, this is the first one in that anthology. I haven't played the others yet, but it's kind of visual novel setup. Again, very pulpy, so intense coloration. And the gameplay is mostly decisions based, but there is a little bit of light mini games sprinkled throughout. I know, like, towards the end, there's like a weird kind of combat-y mini game moment that I was like, I kind of wish you didn't have this in here. But other than that, I loved my time with it. I think it was incredibly compelling. And yeah, it's a mix of interpersonal drama and monsters, which I think is like some of the most fun when you do like a story-driven, decision-driven horror thing. Like, that's kind of what I'm looking for. It's like, oh my God, is that Mothman? Also, like, do you still love me? Like, that's the game. Mike, what was your experience with Mothman 1966?
Yeah, so similar to Yes Your Grace with Jill, and how that's like very like close to home with Indie Informer. Mothman is that for me. It is one of the first games I previewed with 6-1 Indie. Or we got a chance to, like, way ahead of release. I found my preview from, God, it must have been early 2022. I don't have the date. I'm gonna read kind of like the last like couple lines of this.
Please do.
Mothman 1966 may be heavily leaning into a postmodern cliche 80s aesthetic, but it feels inherently fresh in the horror space. With exceptions, of course, the genre is riddled with jump scare reliant tropes and overly complicated attempts at being the next Kojima. But what LCB has built thus far, as if it's sorry, I'm trying to like put this in for the present. What LCB has built feels like a brand new direction for what interactive horror can be. Horror built into gameplay mechanics themselves that feel more simplistic is thrilling. Yeah, this feels like horror properly built into the mechanics. Like, they built a video game and they thought of, okay, how can we implement this into the sensation that horror delivers? And I can't celebrate that enough for this team. This team knows what they're doing in the interactive space. All three of the Pixel Pulps are fantastic. So that's Mothman, Varney Lake, and Boston Knights. They also just dropped Summoning Solitaire on itch. It's just a solitaire horror game, which I really still need to check out. Yeah, LCB rocks, and so does Chorus, the publisher, as well. They're doing some great stuff in the narrative space.
10%. As far as Endless Replayability Fest, which is going on now, I do want to shout out Sulfur, because that's got a
rocks.
demo up, and it absolutely does rock. Anybody else got something to shout out for that one?
I who wrote Rabbit and Steel? Because I've been playing that a little bit, and it's
Okay, you wrote it, Gio.
I didn't, but maybe I did in my like
Yeah,
that's
scary.
in a deep confusion. I do have a very bad memory, as I think I said at some point maybe during this. I can't actually.
You're
remember.
actually drunk out of your mind for this show. You're
Yeah.
like, you know what?
The same thing. That's why you don't remember what you said about the thing and the guy in the place at the party.
That's
Yep.
life is hard. Rabbit and Steel is wildly weird and cool. Basically, it is a game. It is a roguelike that is a simulation of raiding with your friends in an MMO. And the idea is that you go into these different boss encounters and you're doing your moves that are kind of like, circle, pop up, and that's your damage radius kind of thing. And it's so hard to describe, but it's like a cross between an action game and like a bullet hell kind of like dodging things game, because like as you're getting attacked by enemies, they have certain patterns that you're kind of like moving around and dodging around. And so it becomes this like strange boss rush roguelike where you're kind of, using your cooldown MMO abilities to like take out bosses and dodge their attacks. And the one thing I'll say about it, really, really interesting premise. It's like certainly going to be for more people than others. Like people who are deep like MMO heads are probably going to be like, this is the coolest concept in the world. But it has like it goes so hard. It's music. It's like it has no right to go as hard as it does, and I just like don't understand how it's possible. It's like one of those games where I'm like playing it and I'm like, this is clearly a game made by a really small team, and they seem like they put together like a really small game, except like it feels like they spent $2 billion on the music. Like it's unbelievably like 2,000 piece orchestra playing like the most incredible RPG themes you've ever heard. And like to the point where I was like, are these like stolen? Like where did they come from? How did they do this? And I have no idea. I haven't dug into it yet, but like really like some deceptively phenomenal like mock RPG like Final Fantasy tribute music. It's like astounding.
Wow. I am super down to go check that out,
Oh, yeah.
actually.
And you know when it came out?
I think
Was it May 9th?
Came
May
out
9th.
May 9th.
It was
Yeah.
May 9th.
I was gonna say
Basically-
when we were talking about the games and we were like, these are the games you can check out. I was like, that's not even all of them. There's so
No.
much
There's
more
so
that
many.
dropped that
There's
day.
so
Oh, I mean,
many
feel free
more.
to. I know we passed the section, but if you have other ones to shout out, like this, the floor
I'm
is
not too-
yours.
Everything
The
happened
Pac-Man
on May
Battle
9th.
Royale. Let's go.
Like
It was
yeah.
good. I enjoyed
Is it?
Other indie games to shout out.
For a former Google Stadia
Pac-Man
Small
is an
exclusive.
indie
Bandai
that I don't know
Namco
what it
title.
is. So I want to move from our happy state into a very sad story. So everyone get your faces in check. There you go. I liked that one, Mike. That was good. Unfortunately, it did drop today the news that the team behind Drag Her has had to completely stop development on their game. And I'm going to go ahead and read directly from their words on social media. It says, "We come today with a somber announcement that after 3 years of development, we are shutting down Drag Her and disbanding the team. It is an especially painful decision brought about by a simple lack of funding. Over the life of this project, we have pitched to a long list of publishers, platforms, and more looking to get Drag Her picked up. Despite a groundswell of audience support, a fully funded Kickstarter, successful grant applications, and wonderful turnout at major game events, no amount of legitimacy we built has culminated in a deal. We have no delusions. We took a huge creative risk in a system stacked against our success. Still, we labored in isolation, harnessing the talent of a small group of deeply creative and passionate people to create what is fundamentally fun fucking game. This is because for us. Drag Her was a killer piece of gay media, a chance to showcase the sheer joy of queer culture and an opportunity to move the community forward, a game that could normalize, equalize, and validate rather than force us to the margins. There is a deep disappointment in being unable to bring Drag Her to her fully released form. What we can do, however, is release what we have. Tomorrow, so that is May 16th, Drag Her Failure to Launch Edition will be released for free on Steam, with 3 queens, local verses, and Launch Edition will be released. Oh no, and online multiplayer. We will share another post when it goes live. There's a little bit more to that. We'll put the full statement down below. But yeah, I did see this a little bit before we started recording, and it is hard in a lot of different ways because we're getting hit back to back to back with layoffs and just everyone talking about funding drying up and money not being there. But this is especially difficult because there is this element of people not being willing to quote unquote take a risk on things that show queer media, any kind of pro like LGBTQ community game being apparently inherently difficult, even though as this post says, they had a fully funded Kickstarter. They had audience support. They were at like Day of the Devs. I saw them at. They were at
They
showcases.
they
They
were
were.
one of the initial Xbox Accelerator program things. Like
Mm-hmm.
awful.
And the fact that none of that pushed people to accept that this game was going to be a hit enough that they were able to get a publisher so that they could finish it, is like sadly not surprising, but absolutely disappointing. Mike, you got any thoughts for us?
This one hit hard because it's like you mentioned, it's there's so many sides of this. Like it is, I don't know, disappointing, I guess is the best term to use, that there is not one single publisher that they pitch to that would take, like you said, quote unquote, the chance, the risk on something like this. A game that has a killer concept that seemingly had fluid mechanics, that seems like it's going to be like, just like talking about a mechanic based game, a rockin' fighting game. Like take the themes and everything out of it. Like at its core, it seems like it's going to be a banger, or was going to be a banger fighting game. And yeah, I don't know. This is a big loss. This is something that's like pretty necessary in the space and pretty vital, and it's a shame that it just got blipped out of existence. Like the optimist in me wants to believe that they drop this failure to launch edition, and kudos to the team for being willing to do that. That takes a lot of guts to do that, to put out a work in progress like that. The dream, the optimist says, like, people play it, people love it, people clamor about it, and somebody revives it from the dead. But I don't know. It sucks, man. This team, friends of 6-1, been talking to them behind the scenes a little bit. It's shitty.
Oh, God.
Just the only thing I want to point out to you, just in case we talked about this game on the show before, but Drag Her, it's a drag fighting game featuring real life drag queens. So I think this one's an interesting one because it does kind of I think sort of shake things up negatively for what is the idea of, I think, success in the industry, where it's like, wow, so you're saying some of these games, like I can see it showcases, I can see it like very high profile and or expensive placements in in-person events, all of that can still like end in failure or like a closure. I think too what really resonates negatively here is that like it's not just like, hey, the game's not going to come out. It's like we're done as we exist as as a unit. And obviously we can look at that and say, well, maybe they just wanted to only do this one project, but it's a lot of what I go back to when it comes to projects or studios not being able to continue or come to fruition is like not just losing what is, but losing what could have been. And it's like, are these people like going to continue making games? And even if they did, if they're not doing it together, it will inherently be different. Now, different isn't always bad, but it's unfortunate when creatives' hands are forced. I think we've all had times, in our life that we have had to pivot, but pivoting because you want to and pivoting because you have to, it is different, and you might also change like how you end up moving in whatever space you have, whether it's, career, where you live, the many different ways that wrinkles can get thrown to things. I'm curious to know too. I mean, we're not going to know the answer to this, but like, if you guys have insight, let me know, because I didn't check like their Kickstarter page. I wonder, could there be like a licensing? Is there like a part of, because they're using real life people is like what it mentions.
I don't
is there
think so.
I wonder if
complication.
if that was something that maybe people didn't want to have to like deal with long term. I don't know, but I feel like even if that was the case, you probably could just change it up, But like this just, it sucks. But I respect the team for one, putting out the title, and two, being upfront. I think a lot of people, a lot of projects can drag out for a long time, no pun intended. And I think them being like, hey, like this is what's going down. We did our best to make it happen. Here's all the information. I think it was a nice balance too of acknowledging, I feel the frustrations in the post, but it also doesn't feel like overly like, mudslinging either. Yeah. Like I think it's it feels real. And I respect that from the team. And yeah, I hope they continue to make games, even if it's not together. And yeah, I hope there's success in this. Like, I hope they also drop it on itch for like a pay what you want. I think that'd be really great.
Yeah,
But I get maybe
honestly.
they don't want to deal with like the money of it at that point too. They're like, hey, we're not even like going to be operating on this LLC anymore. You know, I'm sure they have a bunch of things they've already thought of. But yeah, you know, sucks to hear, and definitely creates, I think, a little fear in what other titles may be the next to have this kind of thing happen.
I think this is also a really important moment to have in this show in particular, because we have been talking about the amazing and so great success of so many indies that have come quite recently. And I've seen a lot of takes online of this is the year of indies, and like while AAA games are getting a lot of layoffs and money trouble and whatever, indies seem to be thriving. And like that take is really hard when you look at how many indies are suffering on the front lines of that. Um, so I think it's great that people are taking a look at indies and saying this is a great year for indies, and it's always a great year for indies. Um, but to forget that the indie space is often the most tumultuous and dangerous and risky for creators, um, is dangerous. So it's good to see a reminder to keep in mind that if you want a game to succeed, if you are hoping to support an indie, go support them, full send support. Um, but even if obviously a game has a lot of support and obvious love and financial backing, um, it doesn't make it. It doesn't mean that they're going to come to fruition. It doesn't mean that they're going to be able to make that vision happen. So yeah, just two sides of the coin to always keep in mind as far as indie games are concerned.
Yeah, I think the real quick last thing I want to say on that, because I'm gonna add it to the doc if I can find it, our doc of like, you know, all the ideas we have for upcoming episodes. I think we definitely should delve into that at some point, because I saw a lot of that dialogue too, especially like with the studio shutdowns that happened specifically under Xbox that people were talking about. They're like, oh, you know, and it was kind of that classic thing of like the overcorrection online, at least, and then it's like the reality is like different. Where they're like, you know what, I'm leaving AAA behind and I'm going all on the indies. And if you want to do that, that's like fine. Like you can play games and cover games however you want to. But I think there is a little bit of that. You know, people can only do so much. I'm not saying that like, okay, you have to give half your paycheck to indies to, you know, there's so many ways to support. But I think so often like there's that look of like, ooh, like things are great in the indie scene. You know, where creativity comes. I think oftentimes as players, consumers, and critics, the relationship with indies is often like only for like the good times. You know, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I love indies because they give me some of the greatest games of all time, and they do it for only $10, and they like kill themselves to make it. I love that about you guys. Like, yay! And then it's kind of like, let me go on my merry way. And I think, even if it doesn't necessarily change, like do even if it doesn't necessarily do a complete 180 on like your actions necessarily, because I'm not saying people that make those comments aren't supporters of indies or like don't, you know, wish list and buy and like to talk about and do other things. I think it is always dangerous to look at something too much like it is like the Garden of Eden. It's like, okay, well, like, do we remember the rest of the story of the Garden of Eden? Because like it doesn't stay that way, you know, right? It's like, okay, like there's so many problems in the indie space, but I feel like they're problems that like aren't, because they're so separate. It's like, oh well, like a few places shut down, it happened, but it's like, you know, it's kind of quieter in a sense. But like, I think that's why it is important, you know, to bring this up on our show, where it's like so often we won't have those big discussions because like outside of the debatable kind of, in, you know, if we're debating like Private Division or like EA Originals, outside of those things, like there isn't the same kind of like mainstream closures or mainstream hits, because the whole thing is that, well, they're independent. So it just kind of functions differently, but that doesn't mean that there aren't still problems and issues and its own, you know, darkness and drama that come with the indie scene.
Yep. And if you want to do a little bit more to support indies, we have an indie and indie adjacent summer showcase list for you. So that's one of the best ways to start is get your eyeballs on those showcases, let people know that you are interested. So this indie and indie adjacent summer showcase list comes from and is powered by one Giovanni.
Oh
Bum, bum,
no.
bum.
Oh, did you use my list on
I did use your list.
digitaltrends.com? Oh
Whoa.
You
no.
did? You
Sorry,
can go check it out.
what website is that?
Oh, that's digitaltrends.com.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to go give them a click.
Yeah,
you can
you'll
find
have
all
to go
sorts
check
of
out that list.
all sorts of things about computer and phone and also video game.
Wow,
on
all of the
one
digital trends.
website?
I'll have to slowly scroll to the bottom and make sure not to close the tab too fast so that the
Yeah.
bounce rate is
Yeah.
improved.
I'm going to open a tab right now.
But also, if there's anything missing, everybody go ahead and just blame Giovanni.
It's a
I
work,
added a
it's a
couple
work in
things.
progress.
I too use the phrase "work in progress" to shield myself from accountability. So I'm glad that we're. I'm just messing with you. Go ahead.
I did add a couple things to protect Giovanni.
I have.
I'm gonna put
you've
them on the
added a
list
couple of
after this.
things. There are a couple of things that Mike added that aren't indie. Like they're not even indie adjacent.
I'm sorry, most of them are indie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's read down
get to
this
it.
list is getting spicy.
We'll get to it.
This
It's
is the most
getting spicy.
controversial part of the show, like a summer list.
I wish I had known. I would have done a better job at curating the
You've
list.
done a great job.
So you
did
admit
great.
that you only do a good
Fantastic.
job when you have the
Yes, 100%. If people are paying attention, I will do a good job. If you're not paying
Well,
attention,
you
I'll
picked a great industry because
slip
no
under the radar.
Starting with June 6th, we have the Gorilla Collective. IGN Live is going from June 7th to June 9th. Summer Game Fest Showcase is June 7th. Usually don't get a ton of indies here, but we typically get one or two. So
It's like two sofas kind of circulating
You know,
on the floor.
as I talked about, Yes, Your Grace Snowfall
That was the one.
officially revealed, last year. So Day of the Devs is following right after that, June 7th. Women-led games on June 8th. Latin American Games Showcase June 8th as well. And I believe that's being presented by Devolver or
And Raw Fury, I think. I think
Raw
those
Fury?
are the two.
Maybe it's Raw
Yeah.
Fury. Okay.
Both of those are officially associated with SGF as well.
Yeah. So that's definitely going to be one to watch. Another one no one who is watching this channel should miss is the Wholesome Direct on June 8th. Our own Jenny Wyndham is going to be hosting. I'm excited.
Yay.
Future
Yay.
Games Show, June 8th. Also another one that can be a little touch and go with indies, but usually something good shows up. I have like a kind of like side note for this one. I have the Xbox Games Showcase, which is June 9th. Last year, the Xbox Game Showcase actually had a lot of indies, and I was not really expecting it. But this one is going to be wild for a whole bunch of reasons, for reasons that we might have just recently have
The
been
heat
talking about.
is
The
on.
heat is on. It's summer and it's hot.
I'm gonna have to buy extra data to tweet through just what's gonna be going on. And I'm already on the unlimited plan, so it's like I'm going so far into it that it's like I don't want to be slowed down,
right. And
It's
I'm
a-
actually really interested to watch this for indie news
Yeah.
because it seemed like a lot of what Xbox games and kind of the studios that were getting hit were smaller indie like games, and it seemed like they were trying to focus more on their big hit tentpole AAA. So how we see the difference of indies here might be really significant for their strategy going forward. So keep an eye on that. PC Gaming Show, also June 9th. There's a Nintendo Direct. We know there is. And there is one. It's happening in June. But Nintendo is probably going to write a tweet on some random Tuesday saying it will be at some point between this and this. And we just have to like tune in every day to find out when it is, and we won't know unless we actually I don't know. I don't know
Probably.
what Nintendo's about.
Can we make a guess? It's going to be on the Tuesday we're all flying home. Like that's
Absolutely.
going to be it.
100%. Yeah.
At 6 a.m.
It's either that or it's going to be like June 29th or something very random.
Yeah, I feel like what was theirs last year? They had one last year, right?
Did they?
I don't think they
I
had it
don't
in
remember.
June. I feel like they had it weirdly late last year, but I might just be completely making
Whenever
that
they
up.
last had it in June, that's when I think they're gonna have it again because it's the easiest
Okay.
way to. So just everyone fill in the blanks on that.
Yeah. Everybody's we will get points considering who gets closer for their guess. There's a rumored PlayStation showcase. Maybe we'll see Neva again. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think
One
this
side.
is, if it happens, this is where we see the what's the
devil.
other, not the devil.
The devil. We don't talk about that
We don't
game.
talk about the devil anymore. The other Devolver game that I'm Plucky Squire. I feel like that's where we get
Yeah.
an update
Right,
for this.
That's possible.
And of course, Devolver Showcase is also happening during some of this also.
At some point.
At some point.
Somewhere in
Some
there.
point.
Yeah.
And then Mike down here, he's written Ubisoft as
Prince
one
of
of our
Persia,
indie
baby.
games,
Yeah.
Jason.
The Rogue Prince of Persia. Yeah, our favorite indie game, you know?
We argued about this. This was one of our
Oh yeah,
spicier episodes.
Gio, where do you stand on Prince of Persia?
Don't do it,
Ubisoft
Gio.
published.
Don't fall
Is
into
it?
this trap.
We don't got to spend a lot of time. I just want an answer. Is that an indie game? First, yes or no, and then give me the rationale.
No, I don't think so. I think if Ubisoft is backing it, I don't think you can call it
Yeah,
one.
Mike.
I think.
All right.
But
I mean, it's up to you. It's
kill me.
whatever. I
No,
can't
it's-
repossess your mind. So, it's like, hey,
Okay.
we're split down the middle on whether or not it's a indie game because it's made by the Dead Cells team. So it's like, well,
Yes.
they're an
That
indie
sells
studio,
DLC
but it's
too,
like,
yeah.
but it's like, everything
Yeah.
else. So
So that's your calendar for the summer. It is going to grow as we hear more about these rumored or TBD events. But so keep an eye on that. But let's lead from games to games into topic of the show. Because we're almost at summer, that means we're almost halfway through the year. Let's quickly run through our top 10s and then we'll jump into top 10s of 2024 so far. So this is just kind of a molding list, transforming as we go. Games next week or the week after might completely change things around. Who knows? But as far as what we have so far in our top 10 list, I want to shout out Jenny's. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us, but she wanted very clearly to put Animal Well is a Game of the Year contender for me. That's what she wrote.
threes. Very expressive.
Threes. For me, I have,
E3.
in no particular order.
Ooh. Little Easter egg? What does she know?
Oh.
Oh my gosh, what does Jenny know? Yeah.
E3's coming back.
It's all indie.
It's all.
I love
Indie
it.
3.
I would love Indie 3. We should start to build that up.
Yeah.
I tried
They can't
to a
sue
couple
us
years
because they're
back.
too busy. Well.
No. Okay. Top 10 for me, no particular order. Lorelei and the
Coward.
Laser Eyes, Batro, Animal Well, Indica, Cryptmaster, Sucker for Love, Date to Die For, Snufkin, Melody of Moomin Valley, Botany Manor, Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, and Manor Lords. Gio, you want to hit us with yours?
Yeah, I just realized that one of mine is going to be debatable now that I'm thinking of
That's
the
fine.
Ubisoft
Go
Prince of
conversation.
Persia, the
Go
roguelike
for
that
it.
hasn't come out
Yeah,
yet.
there it is.
Calling your shot.
I have down Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, Batro, Animal Well. Then I have Mars After Midnight, Mini Shoot Adventures, Indica, Berserk Boy, Children of the Sun, Boxes Lost Fragments, and Islands of Insight, which I just remembered in this moment, is technically published by Behavior Interactive, and I do not know what
Where
that
everyone
counts
lands
as.
on that.
So if it doesn't count,
That's okay.
a different game.
Just
I'll allow
no one
it.
talk about that. No one talk about
Okay, thank you.
The
It is a
council
cool
has
game.
spoken.
The council has spoken. Mike, where are you on your top 10s?
I in no particular order except for the first one. Another Crab's Treasure is my game of the year so far, followed by Batro, Exiled, Celeste 64, Turnip Boy Robs a Bank, Children of the Sun, Pepper Grinder, Yellow Taxi Goes Broom, Hades 2, and Buckshot Roulette.
And Janet, hit us up with yours.
Hi, I don't have 10, but Jenny only had one, so and she's not even here, so I'm just gonna go with what I have. I have I did try to order them, so I have 10, working from the bottom up, Pools, 9, Botany Manor, 8, Rusty's Retirement, 7, Little Guardsman. I think, yeah, okay. I'm like, who made that? Okay, well, who published it? I think that counts. I think.
Yes.
You're fine.
6.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Little Kitty, Big City. I don't know what to put for 5 and 4. 3, Cryptmaster. 2, Animal Well. It's like what process elimination. It is a great game. 1, Batro, which surprised me because we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Actually, I guess we're getting into it now, right? Like we're just
Yeah,
looping
let's
back
get
around.
into
Okay.
it. Balatro is on everybody's list, right?
Yeah. Is that our common denominator?
Yes.
Between
Seems like it,
everybody?
yeah.
So
If I put more time into Animal Well, I'm sure it'll eventually get on the list. Same with like Crow Country once I finally start that game because that's a Mike ass video game. But
I also want to
yeah.
play Crow Country, yeah. Well, I guess Animal is the best game, just based on that alone. You're welcome.
Yeah, there you go. Game of the year. Done.
So, Balatro, Janet, why does it surprise you that it's number 1 on your list?
Yeah, I don't really like card games. I don't really like roguelikes. I don't know poker. So it's like, honestly, I don't even know why I downloaded the game, you know? Obviously, I do know that. I like to try a bit of everything just to see what it has to offer. Obviously, Balatro was a huge hit. So it's like, yeah, let me pull up. Not too hard to understand. Really, really fun to play. I think really what cemented this for me as current number 1 on my list was a lot of things. One, the fact that it's so fun all the time. Like, I'm not very good at it. I've never won alone. I've only won with the remap people being like, do this, make sure you order them right. Oh my God, you didn't order them right. And I'm like, oh, it's so okay. Like, you know, and kind of getting shepherded that way. But I put like I feel like I might be like 8 hours into this or something. I put a good amount of time into it. It's always a fun time. I think it creates such a good atmosphere of feeling like when you lose, you're like, I was like right there though. Let me go again. And it's just that loop is so addictive, not to be confused with Nintendo thinking that it's gambling and pulling from the eShop, but it really does have that compelling gameplay loop. I think too, like really I don't think, I want to be careful when I say this because no game is perfect besides maybe Portal 2. So I'm not saying that like I look based on like what's the number of flaws and then like points get deducted. Like I think a lot of people reduce like reviews or review scores to that, and like it's so much more comprehensive. But when I tried to think of like, well, what don't I like about Balatro? I don't really have anything. Like the closest I have is like I kind of wish that it would calculate the numbers before I submit it, but I also don't because that's kind of part of the fun is not the not knowing. So I got nothing. Like it feels so close to flawless in its execution. Like when I was making, and even just like my whole game of the year list, like I made this including AAA, and Balatro still was the best one because I had nothing negative to say about it. And I also wrote a lot about it when I was writing it for my website Pen to Pixels. Like I sat down, and it's kind of part of how I craft the list is like, okay, let me write about what do I like about these games. Maybe sometimes I touch on what I don't like, but like why are they on the list essentially is kind of the goal of those list articles. And when I was done writing about Balatro, I'd written so much. And like part of that was like explaining what the game is, but a big part of that was explaining how the game made me feel and like how I thought it was so approachable as someone that doesn't know card games, doesn't know poker. Like it has so many like smart design things built in to support a multitude of players and play styles that I'm like, yeah, this is like easily the top game for me. And I don't know what's really going to touch it. Again, I think Animal had that chance to do that. For me, it doesn't. I know for a lot of people it will. Those are kind of be, I think, the front runners, and especially that larger, everyone included kind of conversation that we see often with indies where there's like one or two that like go into the mainstream and I'm like, be free. And they like run in the fields, you know, and they don't make it usually, but they're there, they're frolicking. You know, I think Balatro and Animal will definitely be in those conversations. But yeah, Balatro's so freaking good. So yeah, it's like it doesn't really fit my taste, but I think it's a damn good video game.
100%.
It boils down the roguelike down to its essence, where it's like if you take all of these games, you know, that are just like what the genre it's pulling from, they all boil down to make the number get really big and bigger each time, and that's it. And like it boiling it down to that in like a very mathematical way and just like bringing you back to like the ultimate deck builder is just a deck of cards, you know, like it feels like an experiment in like how much can we reduce the idea of a roguelike while still keeping like all of the interesting things about it. And like that to me is just so smart and like, you know, speaks to the fact that like a deck of cards is so flexible. Like there's so much you can do with a deck of cards, and like building a game around that is such a genius idea. Like you already have the best deck. You don't need to make up fake cards to make a game. The 52 you got are the best ones.
It is the quintessential one more run game.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times I've said one more run it throughout this year so far, specifically for Balatro, is like nuts. And I am not a deck builder person. I am not a roguelike person. I am one hell of a gambler. And man, I never thought poker roguelike would work, and it hits so hard.
Absolutely. Gio,
Yes.
you and I share a game.
Yes.
But I'm going to wait to talk about that for later.
Okay.
But I do want to shout out that Lorelei and the Laser Eyes should be on everybody's top 10.
And
It's
it will
so freaking good.
I'm scared I'm too
Mike,
dumb for it. It sounds like
Okay.
a smarty smart
Here's the
game.
thing. We talked a little bit
That's the
about
question I had.
whether or not we were too dumb, I think, on the last stream. Either
We talked about whether or
it-
not me and Mike are too dumb.
Right,
We
there's-
know
there's-
you're not
I-
too dumb.
There's a difference between we as a society and then me and Janet.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so and I was sort of at the point of the game where I wasn't fully it was all on me. I didn't trust, and I should have trusted, and I didn't trust. So I was like, I don't know. But having gotten farther into the game where I am right now, I have not finished it, but I'm some part near the end, maybe.
See, even just that, like,
it's hard to know.
you know, that
go
sounds
read-
scary.
Go read my review in progress because it talks about why I don't know exactly where I am. It is so good at having
Is that a train?
mysteries and yeah, it's good at having a train. The train's coming at you. It's
mystery
good
train.
at having it's good at having mysteries. It's good at having mysteries, and it's good at having puzzles that feel like Sherlock Holmes level.
Okay.
You got to be super smart. But it's all like the clues are almost always immediately like in hand's reach.
Okay.
Like they're right there. You're like, okay, I'm solving for this and for this. And it's more often than not a clever, like the cleverness of it is sort of an illusion. And once you look past the illusion, you realize, oh, that's the answer. So like it's a little more Cryptmastery in its but it's even like easier.
See, now you're
than
just throwing out
Cryptmaster in a lot
buzzwords
of
that you know
ways.
I like. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're like,
I'm
oh,
saying, I'm
like
telling
craft
you,
beer. I'm like listening, and I just kind of
it's kind of like the craft beer of puzzle
cat,
games,
you
Janet.
know, soft plushed animals. Like,
so I really recommend that you try this.
I do want to try it.
and-
Here's my question.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm down. I definitely want to try it.
Yeah.
Do you think I need to let some time pass after crawling out of the animal well? Which, to be clear, I didn't actually get it out of the animal well. I think that's something you actually can
You're
do
always in
based on the
the
You're always in the
achievements. But
animal well.
Once
Yeah,
you
like,
find
you can
the bottom
escape.
of the well, you get to the maze.
I will say too, I was such like, you know, a swearing warning if you're listening to this with kids in the car and you care about swearing. I was such a hating ass bitch by the end of that game that I was like so bitter at finishing it. And then on the credits, it was like, and thank you to you, the player. And I'm like, that's kind of sweet. I'm not gonna lie, that's really nice of you. I was like, God. I'm like, all right.
It got me at the end.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll try to be less mad. But do you? Because I'm worried that like I'm scared.
I think
like,
the things
I'm so
that
scared.
I think the things that you specifically got frustrated with Animal Well have been addressed here.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
they are not going to be the same.
I did hear
sorts
about
of-
the photographic memory that you have
Yes.
Yes.
It's so good.
to fix the botany manor
Okay.
issues.
But we're going to talk about that later.
Yes.
So, I would actually like Gio to go
Hi.
a little bit into Indica because I read a piece that you wrote about it and it
Yes.
was so deeply personal and I appreciated it so much.
Yeah, Indica came out of nowhere for me. I think like my staff writer at Digital Trends, Tomas Franzisi, had written about it a couple times during like Steam demos and whatnot, and been like, I think the thing he said to me when it came out is he said, "Hey, there's a scene in this game where they ask you to slowly fill a bucket with water, and you do that for like 20 minutes, and then at the end of the scene they dump it out." And
Yeah.
he went, "You're gonna love this game." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then I did that scene, and I was like, "This is the greatest scene in the video game ever." Like he was so right.
100%.
Indica is really fascinating, and I know it'll probably be polarizing, and also a heavy content warning on it. It's got a lot of tough content in it. I'll put that out there right off the bat. But essentially, it is a narrative adventure game, I guess, where you are playing as a nun in, I think, the 18th century. Don't quote me. I don't know my centuries. 15th?
It's like an alternative
I don't know.
history.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
Russia, essentially.
Exactly. You're in an alt history Russia. It probably is not as old as 18th century. I don't know. But you're basically a nun who is like a bad nun at a monastery. And bad isn't just like bad at being a nun, you know, and kind of like not respected by the other nuns. And it is a game where you're kind of like on a quest to deliver a letter, like you're given this meaningless task to deliver a letter, and you have the devil on your shoulder who is with you during this, and it is kind of like dealing with this character's crisis of faith and dealing with questions of religion, and like as she has the devil on her shoulder, the devil is constantly having these like very philosophical and like or theological like conversations about religion, you know, where it's kind of like, hey, like how do you quantify sin, you know, like, and like trying to kind of get her to you know, like give into this crisis of faith and be like, hey, you know, you think that not delivering this letter would be sinful? How many letters would you not have to deliver for it to be as sinful as murder? And like all of these questions to kind of like get into those theological things. And I think it's really fascinating because I think on one level you could kind of play it and the surface way of reading it would be like, oh, this is just like kind of an atheistic, edgy game about like, oh, religion bad. But I think it's like actually very spiritual in a really surprising way where like it is a game about questioning faith, you know, and it doesn't answer those questions. It like presents these questions and like presents you with really difficult questions. And it's kind of up to you as a player to walk away being like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. And like the logic of this doesn't track, or to kind of come out of it and be like, yeah, like I accept that doesn't make sense to me. And that is kind of like, that's interesting to me. And I think just like the way that it is depicting things is weirdly respectful, even though it's like, again, a very dark and edgy kind of like the nuns are having sex game, you know, which is kind of an old, a pretty like boring trope at this point.
As their
yeah,
their quote from your publication.
Nuns have sex in this game. But yeah, like I think it's fascinatingly respectful as kind of like a game about theological debate, and I think is like actually engaging with like what a lot of Christianity is about, you know, and that kind of like, yeah, you have those difficult questions of faith, and the game is not there to answer them. It's there to like put them in front of you, and you know, you are on this long journey where you have to ask if any of it is worth it, and you have to fill up a bucket for 20 minutes and then it gets dumped out and you have to be like, why did I just do that? Why did this game make me waste my time? I think it's great. I think it's extremely antagonistic towards players, which is the kind of game that I really like. Like, it is not fun. And that rules so much, because a game about a subject like this probably shouldn't be fun, you know? But I think it's fascinating. And if you're interested in like questions of religion and theological debate, like it's a really, really neat game that is just doing something totally different than anything I've seen.
This is not a joke. I do appreciate when games treat us like shit. Like
Me
there's
too.
something
Yeah,
there's something
100%.
special
Very
about that for some
cool.
reason. Indica is very high on the list. I'm a former Catholic school boy, fucking, you know,
Ugh.
forced 12 years of my life into that. Yeah, this is so high on the list on the backlog.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's not only, I think a lot of the reason why I love getting mistreated by this game is because it shows a certain amount of respect.
It's
for
like the
me.
nuns beating
Yeah.
us back in the day, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But it shows respect to the player, because they're like, I respect you enough to do this and expect you to understand what we're going for and why it's important to do this. So like the whole bucket scene was absolutely
Amazing.
the pivotal moment for me. It was so fantastic. I'm like, I played it on stream and I thought, I don't know how this is gonna go, but like everyone afterwards was like, oh no, we get this. I'm like, thank God. Okay. And if you're not into the theological side of things, it is just a very good game exploring humanity in general.
Yeah.
So
Also, it like as another joke and like jab at the audience that it does that I think is great. It has a skill tree. It has like experience points and you get
Amazing.
skills when you level up, and the skills are all like guilt 4. Whenever you get points, multiply your points by 1.4, and you're like, okay, and you're constantly getting these score multipliers. And every time you get a tooltip, like in a loading screen, all the tooltips are like, the points do not mean anything. These don't do anything.
stop doing it.
Don't look for meaning in them. These will never do anything in the game. And like, you still are just kind of like putting skills in and points because you want it to mean something. And like, that's, you know, like the kind of like, well, maybe it does. Maybe there's a reward at the end of all of this, is such like a mean thing to do.
Well, it's also like a weird like theological question
Yes.
of like trying to
Yes.
find meaning in nothing.
In nothing.
You know,
And
like
they tell
the
you it's
Jesus
nothing.
toast,
Yeah.
Right.
the Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Mary stain on the wall of the
Yeah.
bar.
It's such a good connection between you, the player, and what you are deciding to do,
Mhm.
and the main character. And I love games that are able to conflate literally the player and the character.
Yeah.
So
Some
go
people
check
are going
that
to hate
out.
it, and like that's totally cool, and I think there would be fair reasons to as well. But like if you go into it, like as long as you go into it with the idea of like this is not necessarily supposed to be pleasurable in the same way that maybe a lot of games are, and engage with kind of like why it's built the way that it is and why it resists doing certain things. I think it's just a really cool experience that I don't know, just rethinks like what gameplay should be, like it sometimes should be kind of like tough and antagonistic if it's talking about tough themes. So yeah.
I'm almost
Yeah.
done with it. I haven't. Sorry, we all talked at one time. I don't know
No, go
where to go
ahead, Jamie.
next. Okay.
Take
Mine
it
was
away.
a joke. Go for it.
I mean, a lot of my things are also jokes, so it's like, no, it's totally fair. Yeah, I'm almost done with Indica. I'm not quite done with it. I'm like 20 minutes away from being done. So it's like, oh, it's right there, but I had to like do, all these other shows. So it's like, oh, okay. I'm really excited to see how it ends, even though people were like, the ending's not that good. I'm like, well, I just want to see what they do with it. This is a weird game for me because it's like, I guess like again, like the reviewer in me, it's like this game's probably either okay or good kind of vibe, but at the same time, it's like it's incredibly interesting for all the reasons y'all mentioned. Like I think if you are an art house artsy game person, you will enjoy seeing what the game has to offer. Even if you end up being like, oh, I kind of was just okay, or maybe it was what, you'll still be like intrigued by it. Like that's what I get out of it. Like I think it has really brilliant writing. I think I am pro the water well thing. I think easily you could say like it's a little cheap, but I think it works for like the style of game it is. And like, again, there's like a couple little like conversation quips there. It kind of puts you in the like, I think it totally fits in that world. And like my only real beef actually with this game is that I wish there was more stuff like that. It feels like some of the gameplay, and they do great things with like the 16-bit stuff, like the art looks incredible, and I think it's really fun and different and kind of invites like, why do they have that change in style? Like, is it because it's meant to represent like a past and so it has like a nostalgic art style? I think that invites a lot of fun questions, and it's interesting to play, and it's heartfelt, and it changes the pacing. I think that's really cool. What I'm not as into in this game is like it feels like there's a lot of gameplay for gameplay's sake, and I think the thing I go back to with this game is this feels like it's a walking simulator that didn't want to be a walking simulator. So it's like, actually, I'm an adventure game. And I'm like, you should have been a walking simulator. And I love walking simulators. And I think I'm a big proponent of walking simulators are more than just walking. Like, obviously, walking sim is the genre and that is the main mechanic. But like, so many walking simulators have different types of interactivity. And I think this, like, I just kind of wish they leaned more into that, even though it is kind of fun and intriguing to look at like, oh, well, like you have like this bike riding kind of mini game. It's like, oh, I'm doing this Resident Evil style exploration, or I'm doing this like Final Fantasy VII style like operating machinery. Like that's kind of interesting in a way, but I feel like it doesn't feel as like cohesive as so many other elements of the games that y'all are talking about, with like the weird points don't matter, they do, the picking up the items and having like that layer of editorialization to their descriptions is so powerful. So yeah, I wish it more leaned into that. I think if it leaned into that would like wildly swing my like overall rating of the game to like, oh, this is like up there with the best of them. That being said, I think we will still be talking about this game for a long time, just because I think it blended styles in like presentation and the storytelling in such interesting ways, even though it's like, yeah, like, I don't know, they really liked pushing boxes, and they're like, what if it was all pushing boxes? But outside of that, there's like really cool stuff happening. So it's such a weird, funky thing that like, if you are down for an art experience, you will get a kick out of playing it because there's so much to look at in terms of that.
Yeah.
If you like
For
Indica, go watch Benedetta. It's a art house sicko nun film.
Is it scary?
Yeah, now we're
It's
talking.
scary.
Oh yeah, let's go. Let's get weird.
Love it.
It's always scary with you, Mike. When is it like just nice times?
Yeah. It's always like bloodbath cupcake or something, you know?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Do we have time
moving
to like
over-
continue? Oh wait, what are we moving on to?
I was moving over to a game that is on both of our lists, Janet.
Sure, go for it.
I would like to talk about Cryptmaster. We didn't talk about it. It is
Yeah.
one of the May 9th games. And it's one, like, all of the May 9th games are, like, always jostling and competing for number one in my head. And I can never quite figure out which one I love the most. Cryptmaster is one that on initial playing, I was like, okay, maybe it's not going to be number one. But then I just couldn't put it down. And I couldn't stop thinking about what's going to happen or what's around the corner or what's the answer to that riddle, or maybe I'll just throw some time in there. So it's the one that I just keep crawling back to. For anybody who doesn't know Cryptmaster, we've talked about it on the show before, but it is essentially a kind of D&D adventure game, and all of the mechanics revolve around typing. It's so cleverly made, and how many different ways that the typing is involved here. I talked a little bit at the top about the card game that I've been playing. So, like, you find cards that are that have names of the characters on them, and you have to get a bunch of letters from like tiles. It's kind of like Scrabble. You get a bunch of tiles with letters on them, and you try to make the words of your card, and when you do, you get to do their action item, and every time you make a letter for their card, they attack. And I'm like, I was already so into this game, and now I just can't stop playing because the game within the game. I have gotten up to, I think, just above the Duchess. I think she was a Duchess. The lady noble. So I've gotten to like the town, which has like actual people in it. So we're starting to get higher and higher, closer to the surface. And I'm still so excited to jump into this game every time. And the puzzles are always getting me. The only time that I absolutely had to look up a riddle, and having looked at the answer, I knew I never would have gotten it on my own, was like a math related riddle, which I was like, I'm looking at someone explain this riddle, and I still cannot figure out why that's the answer, but okay, fine.
It's like cosine. Like I don't know. Like I don't know math terms
Yeah,
enough
it's
to.
fucking, I don't know where any of this comes from, but I can't explain why it's so satisfying. It is so, like, Giovanni, you look like you
Yes.
want to jump in on that one. Go for it.
I was gonna say, like, one thing that really has struck me about Cryptmaster, and I think I wrote about this when I wrote about the game, is like, so part of the conceit of the game is like you can type words and like the game reacts to you. You know, like you
Mhm.
have an undead guy that's floating around with you who's the Cryptmaster, and like you're constantly typing words, and like he more often than not will like say the word back, you know, like bucket, like what are you, why are you talking about a bucket or something? And you know, there's a lot of situations in which you'll type something and like there will be an actual response to it. And nothing in this game is done with generative AI or anything. Like there's no tricks like that being done. You know, it is all like bespoke, like written and recorded dialogue, and they've just built this really intricate responsive system where it feels like the game is responding to you. And as someone who has like been covering a lot of the like generative AI stuff happening in the games, and I've done a lot of the demos of like Ubisoft's tool, you know, or like Nvidia's tool, they're all trying to accomplish what this game does, like with actual artistry, right? Like this game has that. It has that responsive feeling of you talking to something and it responding to you, and like it feels human, and you get like a really fun voice performance out of like the characters, and the characters feel real, and the conversations kind of feel real. And even when it feels like you've hit kind of like, oh, a canned response or something, it's still like delivered in a way that feels handcrafted and bespoke. And like when I do a lot of these AI demos that are trying to accomplish this with generative AI, it's so different when it just kind of, you feel that it's a machine spitting something back at you, you know, and it feels
Mhm.
like, oh, you're saying this? Well, now here's my response that I pulled from Wikipedia, you know, or like whatever. It I think it just kind of proves how much a human touch makes that stuff exciting. Like the idea of, oh, you can talk to anyone in the game and say anything. Like, I don't really care. Like, I don't need to carry on a conversation with like a million NPCs infinitely in a game. Like, I want the responses that I get to mean something and feel valuable. And like every response in this game feels valuable. I remember like swearing. I just started typing swears at some point in the game
Mm-hmm.
and to be like, what would happen? And like the Cryptmaster starts kind of being like, hey, don't say that. Hey, come on. And like yelling at me. And at some point it's like, okay, I'm taking one of your souls and I'm putting it in a swear jar. You're never getting this soul back. And I'm putting it in the swear jar because you've sworn too many times. And I was like, that's such a funny like reaction that feels real and responsive to something that I have done and not like, just content for content's sake. And I think that to me is what's really special about it. Just like it feels human in a way that I think is really cool.
The only thing I have to add is that we've been flirting back and forth on socials, and I'm just waiting for somebody to make
Yeah,
a
you with the
move,
Cryptmaster.
honestly. He wants me to slip into the DMs. I don't know. I think it should be the other way, but
Mm-hmm.
Jill, you're farther along in the game than I am. I'm like only on the second floor still. Yeah, I'm still loving it. Again, been into it since the demo. And I think your mention of how like addictive and compelling it is really apt because I stream this on like my every Friday I do like a best of stream where I like whatever came out that week, I'll play that on stream. And I was gonna play this in like I was actually gonna play Crow Country, which this is no shade to Crow Country because it looks really cool. But I got so into this that I'm like, oh, we ran a little long on this, and I was like, what if we just kept playing this? And like it was so fun to do it too with like it's definitely fun to play by yourself, but it's almost enhanced by playing with the chat because then they can guess like the answers to things and you can like talk through your thought process a little bit more. And yeah, if you are like a word game person, I would say you don't even necessarily need to be a typing person, but like if you're into word games, this is like word games upon word games nicely integrated with like the dungeon crawler system in a way that's really cool. And I'm enjoying how like the mechanics are progressing where that first floor it's like very like straightforward and the second one it's like okay, actually you need to spend souls to cast these abilities and spells and you can get those from like finding the bugs and it's like oh okay, now I know why the bugs are on the wall and I can like capture them and get souls that way. And then there's like an extra layer. I really enjoy when and obviously not every game needs to do this because some games have like a smaller mechanic set to like work with to begin with, but I love when design treats me like a juggler where they're like kind of and now this thing and I'm like smoothly kind of doing it all at once. And I think that's a really fun way to have rich mechanical systems without like overwhelming the player, and I think Cryptmaster does that really well. And yeah, like I think too, like the enemies, like I think the thing I'll compliment right now is the enemy design, just because I've talked about a lot of the other stuff like before and like we've kind of covered it already. But what's cool is like you fight these enemies and they have like their own like little health and they're mostly grunts, so it's not too bad. But a lot of them have like weird little shticks. I mean, if you're used to Tapping of the Dead, it's like this is not necessarily a new idea, but something like they have like a shield and it's like the letter Q, so you like can't type anything that has a Q or like an A or something, more common. Or there's one that's like a gelatinous cube, which feels like a very much a nod to like tofu mode in Resident Evil and things.
No, I mean, here's the funny thing about that. D&D has the gelatinous cube, and they are so obviously that is the gelatinous cube, but they have called
No, you're
it
probably right.
the glutinous block in the
Yes,
game. And
legally
I'm like,
distinct.
that's the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
And they each have I think like a certain letter associated with them where it's like if you type a command that uses that letter, like if there's no I's and you type hit, it like grows in size and also in health. So there's like a really fun layering of like the abilities you have, and a lot of your abilities work in conversation like among your party. So it is a lot of buffs and like things that you can use to sort of enhance like someone else's attack or like remove a cooldown. I think specifically the cooldown aspect of it has pushed me more into like using all of the different tools and like using them in conversation, because I kind of have the habit, because I came up on Pokemon where you can like do, because the Pokemon is so straightforward, like you don't need to do like the and now like my attack is buffed for 3 turns. Like, you can do that and I get people play that way, but because it's easy enough that you can just kind of like this one's fire. Like, you don't have to do those systems. So I kind of got into the habits of like, why would I do anything other than attack? Attack is always better than plan. Like, I'm just kind of waving a stick around in games at this point. And I'm really trying to unlearn that as a player. And I think this game does a great job of making that feel very natural with like the way they design the game and like them kind of. I also appreciate being forced into a corner, but a corner that I can get out of in a way, where it's like, oh, it's still fun. I don't feel like, okay, anytime you take away my eye, I'm not gonna have anything. Like, there's such a great flow to this. I love it. This is for the word sickos out there.
Yep.
You're gonna love it. Yeah, if you're out there, if you were like, I'm really into Wordle, I'm really into like, you downloaded words, and if you downloaded Words in Progress when I mentioned it on the show a few weeks ago, this may be for you. It's like, talk to your doctor. If you too are seeking, if you too knew what Gubbins was before Mike mentioned it, you may want to be playing Cryptmaster because it's super fun.
Yeah.
And
Love
even if
Gubbins.
you're not into those things, if you're just into like the D&D kind of experience as well, this might also be for you.
I think it's, I guess one very last thing. It's very approachable in that it has a lot of like setting stuff too, where you can like add extra hints and like, because so much of it is hangman style gameplay, it is not like, can you think of a 3-letter word that is some type of attack? It's like, okay, well, you'll get, like, it has a lot of those like support systems too, where you don't have to necessarily be like a genius at deduction. You can kind of work your way into the solution. Even the riddles, like the Cryptmaster will tell you the answer if you like ask him. I think he has like 3 that he can give out of answers, which, Jill, you didn't want to spend the Cryptmaster answer. Like, you just kind of like, you had an in-game option. I respect you for not wanting to get rid of the buff because you get less rewards and you're like, why would I do that when I can just Google it? I wish the Cryptmaster could know that you did that. Like, super meta game, like inscription level.
I see
reading
you're
your
typing
computer.
in the answers on our,
Yeah.
on our browser.
Can you imagine? Oh my god.
Well, he knows now. We know he listens to the show. So.
He does. Yeah, friend of the show, Cryptmaster.
Friend of the show, the Cryptmaster.
I want to end our top 10s with Mike.
Sure.
And because your list is so chaotic, I'm going to let you pick whichever one you would like to highlight. Go ahead, Mike.
Sure. I feel like a lot of these we have talked about at some point or another. So I do want to shout out Exiled from John Szymanski. This is something we talked about earlier in the year. This was a shadow drop, if you want to call it that, back in January. John and his brother David, they're going through some tough times, and they recently put out My Friendly Neighborhood, which is a Resident Evil 7 like indie, which I adore. And yeah, they were being, like we were kind of talking about the Dragher team, being super transparent on socials, be like, hey, listen, I'm going through a rough stretch right now. Here are these 2 games, Exiled and Pony Factory. You get them in a bundle for $6. Have at it. So yeah, that was a kind of like an easy decision on a cold January night. Exiled in particular is essentially like a bite-sized horror escape room. Big eldritch horror vibes. You are stuck in a room and the whole goal is to find your lost wife who got captured by this ancient evil, and you're stuck in a single room. You have a table in front of you and there are different objects, and the goal is to open up this box, which is the key to getting your wife back, essentially. And there are 3 different endings, and depending on the order of you doing things, or maybe you miss a puzzle, you skip a certain element, it affects what kind of ending you get. Better left unspoiled and not really digging too far into it. If you were a fan of Chance of Sonar last year, Janet, you should play.
You guys know what to say to me.
Now we're talking.
Listen,
it's the craft beers of horror games.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just really well designed, and for $5 for 45 minutes, like it's great. It's a one of those short bangers that we always go on about, and heavily overlooked this year. So please go check it out. That's Exiled by John Szymanski.
And that's our current state of our top 10s, but I suspect things coming down the pipe will change those dramatically.
Mouth washing, baby.
Believe it or not, we have more games to talk about because we're moving on to games we've been playing. And I've been teasing this particular title the entire time, and it's one of the main reasons Giovanni is here with us today. So I'm going to unleash you and let you talk about Lorelei and the Laser Eyes.
I know, you just let me sit here for like an hour and a half being like, yeah, other games, cool,
Just a little
yeah.
carrot above her head, like, I promise we're gonna get to it.
Hey, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is I'm a let me set up this way. I'm a puzzle game sicko. I'm what you would call a puzzle game sicko.
Mhm.
The
Huge
puzzle
huge
sluts,
on the genre, especially like a puzzle adventure kind of game. I'm huge on, and I'm a big advocate of like the fact that the genre just doesn't get enough respect. Like puzzle games. There's no best puzzle game category at like any major award show. Like we just don't get it. There's
Not
no
yet.
way for there's not yet. Please. Like there was no way for something like the Talos Principle 2 to like be nominated for awards last year. It's just like best indie game and that's it. Big advocate of puzzle games deserve more respect. And gosh, if this game doesn't do it to people, then truly nothing can save the genre and get it the respect it deserves. Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is like, I mean this very sincerely as someone who like does not like to hyperbolize, and also like has played a lot of puzzle games. It might be like the gold standard puzzle game, like truly one of the best I've ever played.
Oh my god, New
Maybe like a
Witness
top.
just dropped. Let's go. Because I'm tired of hearing about The Witness. Can we just throw that out there? I think we're all a little tired.
Lorelei and the Laser Eye
Tired of hearing
stomps
about
on the
that man,
Witness.
to be honest.
It's dead.
I was thinking that when I was playing it, when I was like, "This is great," I was like, "Oh, thank God, something's better than The Witness." Finally,
Right? Because it's just getting like controversy noted. Like it's getting a little boring. Like hearing like
Yeah.
in The Witness. I would love something to overthrow that. I'm already sign me up. I'm the team Lorelei now.
Yeah, this takes it. It's blowing the competition away. So yeah, Lorelei and the Laser Eyes is, for folks who don't know, it's from Simogo, and Simogo has done a lot of neat games. But they're most famous, I guess, for Sayonara Wild Hearts. But this is nothing like that. It is a like 90s throwback puzzle box horror game, and imagine basically like the original Resident Evil, but without any of the combat. It's just like,
Oh
what
my
if
God.
you were just opening
Oh?
doors and
Yeah,
doing the
yeah.
puzzles? And
Yeah.
that's
All
what
right.
the game is. So you're like walking around a hotel.
Fine, I'll
Like
play
you're
it.
a woman who's been called to like work on a film, like at this creepy hotel, and you go into it, and it's just like very mysterious and like, what's going on? I don't know, like very kind of strange story. And you are just going through and solving puzzles in the hotel and, like unlocking doors, and like you found a key and like, where does that key go? And it starts, and it's fixed camera angles, of course, because it's an ode to that era of horror games. Looks incredible, has this like wild black and white art style that's gorgeous. But the thing about it that's like so hard to express is that the design of it and like the puzzle logic of it is some of the most unbelievable, remarkable like design I've ever seen in a video game. It's not just like, oh, here's the type of puzzle that's in the game. The logic is like constantly changing, and like different puzzles are like just have very, very, very different logic and solutions to them, and they're all brilliant. Like the way that you solve things, it starts off like, okay, I get this. It's like, maybe I have to do this riddle to solve like a door code. And it just slowly gets more and more big brained as it goes, just like introducing things where like, once you crack them, you're like, how would anyone on Earth even think to put this puzzle together? And then like, how did I figure out to solve that? And I hesitate to like give an example because I don't want to spoil a single puzzle of it, but like, it's just like, it has the kind of eureka moments where like, when you hit them, and it might take you a while. Like Simogo sent a note to reviewers before this, like during the previews, that was like, we don't think most people will finish the game, and that's fine. But like when you do crack them, and especially like if you don't look things up and you like let puzzles sit with you and be like, I'm gonna take a break from this. There it is, the notebook. I'm gonna like write down notes, and I'm gonna like think about this puzzle. When you finally crack it, it is like the most brilliant moment in the world. And I had like shower epiphanies where I like woke up after a whole night of thinking about a puzzle, and I was like, I just can't figure this out. Got in the shower in the morning and then was like, oh my God, I understand what they're doing here, and it's so genius. And then I got out and it like solved it. It's just unbelievable. Just as a piece of puzzle design. And then I think like there is a story component to it that I think is brilliant and like subtle, and the way that it is kind of using puzzles to talk about like reality versus fiction, and the way that we like interpret those two things, and the way that like we interpreting reality becomes like an act of fictionalizing something, and like the way that that kind of weaves into it, I think is brilliant as well. Can't recommend it
Yeah,
highly
not
enough.
to not to
Yeah,
spoil
please.
anything, but sometime during my review in progress, I wrote at one point I was playing a game that was playing a game that was playing a game,
Yeah.
and I knew all of the levels. I was fully aware 100% of the time. Like, oh my gosh, this is the best experience ever.
Yeah. And the only thing I will say too is to answer a thing that was going around earlier, the question of like, am I smart enough for this game? I really recommend it. Is like a secretly great accidental multiplayer game where like if you sit down with somebody and put it on the TV and it's like, let's play this together, because there's so many different types of puzzle logic in it that like play on very different ways of thinking. If you play it with somebody who like has a very different kind of puzzle brain than you, right? Like my girlfriend and I were playing it together, and like I'm a shape rotator, like I can rotate shapes in my head and be like, okay, like how do these things go together? But not so much like mathy. And like she
Mhm.
figured out a lot of those like mathy riddles, and we came together, and it was kind of like, oh my god, like I get this one, and I was like, wait, how? And then we could kind of share that, and that was a really really cool like almost multiplayer like couch co-op experience to it.
I think, Gio, you and I might be the same person.
Are you
Because
shape
I had the
rotating?
For real.
exactly the same. I'm a shape rotator, right?
Yes.
And I'm like,
Yes.
I'm thinking outside the. I can get wordplay really quickly,
Yeah.
but like my partner was sitting there watching me play this game, and he's very mathy and he understands all of that. So like every single puzzle, we're sitting down and we're like, oh, okay, this is a document. We're ready. We understand what's going on, and then one of us will get it within seconds, and
Yeah.
we're on the couch like high-fiving each other like, we are great, this is fantastic.
Yeah. I think that's the way to do it. Like if you're worried about like not being good at it, like, or even just like a friend who like is playing it at the same time and you can like share notes with, like you'll see different things, and like that can help.
The issue is I feel like I'm none of those people. Like, you know what I mean? Like I feel like my
Jen.
fiance is all of the people.
Are we streaming this together?
Oh my god.
please.
There you go.
Lorelei, the laser eye,
Listen,
and two
as-
I'll be in
dummies.
the chat like texting away like, okay, you just want to look over there, okay, you're
For
doing
video
great.
folks, the reason I was getting blinded in the face, I did just purchase the notebook.
Yes,
The
you
Oh
notebook
yeah,
is
they're
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they're selling the notebook. That's like, so the notebook exists in the game. Is this what we're
Yeah.
looking at? Okay.
No, I mean there are things in the game that exist in the game that are like Tunic's instruction manual,
Okay.
essentially.
Cool.
But you're not trying to collect those. But there are things that you were trying to collect that work somewhat like that as well. Shut up. I can see your face, Gio.
The notebook is not in the game.
No, the notebook is not in the
The
game.
notebook is in
but
real life
There
on
are like
AnnapurnaInteractive.com.
there are things in the notebook that are collected in the game.
Yeah, like they're okay, but it's not like it's
Okay.
referring to an in-game notebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your description of the Resident Evil without the combat really got me, because I'm always talking about how my favorite part of Resident Evil is just like walking around like the bespoke place and like messing with stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, well, I'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so excited.
If you do like that flow, like that is 100% what it is. Like it is
Nice.
really really just like puzzles. No, just the puzzles, and that's it. And like again, it is hard. I keep joking. I know everyone always does the like, it's the Dark Souls of blank, but like it truly is the Dark Souls of puzzle games, only in the sense of like it doesn't give you hints, and it's like, yeah, you're gonna smash your head against some of these puzzles for a while, But I will say the thing that it does really well is like it's very open ended. So even though there's kind of a sequence of like this puzzle leads into this puzzle and this puzzle leads into this puzzle, there's usually like enough that you can do at once,
Right.
so that if you get stuck somewhere, you go somewhere else. It's also the kind of game where like if a puzzle seems impossible, you can accept that it probably is impossible and you don't have the information yet. And like, once you learn that language of the game of like, I don't have this yet, I can sense it, then it becomes a little easier to navigate too.
Right. They also mitigate a lot of that by, Janet, you mentioned earlier the like photographic memory thing. So everything that you find that's a hint or a clue or even the puzzles in some cases, and the dialogues with people that are important of some sort will be right there. So if you're at a door and you're trying to open the door and there's some kind of puzzle you're trying to get through and you're like, okay, this puzzle has something to do with astronomical signs or something. I know that I have this book on astronomy. I can just go into the menu right there at the door and look up all of the necessary, like, pertinent stuff.
Nice.
So like it helps with the things that I think Animal Well might have done better, because you have it right there and then, and you know how to solve the puzzle, and you have all the information you need. You don't have to go back and be like, okay, where was that book on astronomy? I think it was somewhere around here. Like, you don't have a lot of that going on. So I really, really love that. I think there is so much constantly being introduced, and it's so, like Giovanni said, it's so creative and clever and astonishing with how varied and how much is happening. And I'm never bored, and I'm constantly like, okay, I just need to get to this, and then I'll get to this, and I'll get to this, and then I can't stop because I know I've got $10 and I can go buy that thing that I've been trying to get through. Giovanni laughs because he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
American dollars. You can get American dollars.
American dollars.
Yeah.
And it's commentary on what's going on deeper into the narrative, and a game that makes me feel paranoid is the perfect game. You know what I'm saying?
And it's just, and even, you know what, even if like you don't get all the way through it, like the vibe of it is just worth seeing. Like
the
look of it is
like impeccable.
It's
absolutely impeccable.
Unbelievable. And the music is like astonishing. Like all the piano music in it is like amazing. The sound design, like they are firing. Like you can feel Simogo going into this game being like, let's just make our magnum opus. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
We've been around long enough. Let's make like the best game that we've ever made. And like it totally, I don't know that I've played in a very, very long time something that feels like such a complete artistic vision on every single level of like, we are executing this thing in our exact vision, the exact way that we planned it out, and like no compromises. Like it's wild. It's such a wild game.
Yeah.
Touching on the soundtrack and the sound design, I love that. I just had to do a quick fact check. Love that it's the same folks behind Sayonara. Incredible.
Yeah.
It's
They're
incredible.
Good. They're real good.
I think the
Daniel, real good.
only kind of warning flag I'll send out there for people who are a little trepidatious about the puzzles. The thing that gets me is the game starts out asking a lot of trust from you, and because you are so early on, you don't know that you can trust the game. I promise you can. Go in there, you're gonna get a lot of info dump in the beginning, and you're gonna be like, maybe I'm just too dumb, maybe I should be finding all of these puzzles and all of these answers. Go into the hotel, get all the things, explore all the rooms that you're allowed to. When you come back out and a man talks to you, that is when you can start solving things. So that's all I'll say about anyone who's worried about it, because that can be really intimidating.
It's a PT. That's a pro tip.
Yeah, pro tip right there.
PT. Kojima's PT.
Yeah.
So
we don't talk enough about PT is what I'm always saying.
That's true.
Yeah. Why aren't we just talking about PT all the time? But yeah, that is... Unless
witness of
there is
games.
anything else anybody wants to say about Lorelei and the laser eyes.
The more I say about it, I feel like, one, the more I'll overhype it, and two, also like the more I'll spoil about it. Like I really just recommend it, especially if like, again, if you played Sayonara Wild Hearts and you were like, I just like this developer's vibe, and you're down to play a completely different game by that team. I can't recommend it highly enough.
And there we go. We are, as tradition, going as long as humanly possible. So I do just want to do a quick shout out on one thing that's on my list. The Dungeons of Hinterberg playtest I jumped into. It's fantastic. They've changed some things from the last time I played the demo, and I played demos at GDC this year. So in just a couple of months, I'm like, oh, this combat's a little snappier than I remember. So
yay.
Go check that out. Yeah, I know. Anybody else want to shout something out before we go?
Yeah, I'll be brief. Well, I think, Jill, you saw me play Mana Warlords. Did I talk about this on the show already? Mana Warlords?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Mana
Warlords.
is so good.
I don't. And this is no shade to the game. Like, I don't know how much time I'm going to spend with it. I just, did a little taste test. It was cool. I made Margaritaville. I'm trying to I built a tavern that we can't fuel because I don't have anything to make ale. I bought a horse by accident, and then it just sits there. It was worth like 30 of whatever the currents, the clout, the financial clout of the town,
the money.
I spent almost the whole town's money on a horse that I can't do anything with, basically. So we're getting into a lot of hijinks, and that's what I've been enjoying. I made like the Indie Council house where like all y'all live in. No offense, Gio, you're not in there because I didn't know you'd be on the episode, so like I'll put you in there later. It can be the Digital Trends Shack or whatever, just like hanging
just
out.
give me a little shed.
Yeah, just like a you can. A butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker. We'll find a job for you in the town.
You mean to rhyme that? Jesus, that was impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. But you never heard butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker?
Candlestick maker? It's a literal kid's rhyme.
Yeah. The butcher, the baker, the candlestick
children
maker.
can do that.
Yeah. Get into it, Mike.
Listen,
learn your history.
I've never been to Disney, right? I had a weird childhood.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So that was solid. Again, not super my speed, and it's a big investment. So, we'll see. The last one I want to shout out that I didn't get to is Surmount. Was this also May 9th?
It got
oh my god
pulled forward.
Okay.
Originally May 9th got pulled forward.
Yeah.
Same with Indica.
Okay. So Surmount, I'll be brief. It is a technical platformer. It is like a wonky physics-based climbing game. So it is in that kind of like Bread and Fred difficulty. I will say the physics, what I like about it, it's wonky, but it's grounded enough that you can control it. Like the thing that I don't like in wonky physics is when it feels like completely unwieldy. Like I was never like into like Octodad. I know it's kind of the point of Octodad, but like I don't like when I feel like it's really random. I think Surmount, you do have control, but it's a little bit goofy. And it's really fun. I've been having a good time with it. You basically like, it's very much a like momentum game. So it's like you're spinning around a sector to like toss yourself. There's also a multiplayer. I'm playing single player. Going cool so far. And yeah, I'm excited to like, continue to progress through that. So I'll talk more about that as I get to it. Because this is very up my alley because it's a platformer and it's like a fun time. Like I'm having a good time with it. So I'll keep climbing and keep you all posted on what's at the top. I forgot the name of the mountain. I don't know, the surmountable mountain. I don't know what it's called. I feel like Jenny mentioned what this is called before. Somebody else mentioned what it was called before, but
the Surmountain.
Yeah, the Surmountain.
Surmountain.
Like it's one of those like Celeste things where I'm like the carrot. I don't know. Like it's like a different name than the thing. You know how it is.
And Mike, you want to throw out what you're doing?
Still playing another Crab's Treasure. I'm doing a gun run.
You got tatted since we last
I did. I got
talked about it with the crab.
Look at it.
Ooh, nice.
Here, get a little closer. It's not in focus enough.
Oh, it's all like scabby and shit now, but like
there is a crab.
We'll post a
there,
picture.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. It's not a good.
Just go on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's
go
so
to
good.
@TinyGhostTattoo on Instagram. You could see it there, and give Kelsey a follow.
Okay, and with that, that's the end of this week's council. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you so much to our guest, Giovanni, who is in the East Coast time, so it's late for him.
Oh my gosh.
That's all right. I'm used to it.
I'm scary.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
I'm so glad to have you. If you're interested in following the show, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The Indie Council has its own socials at Indie Council _ at Twitter and at the Indie Council everywhere else. Giovanni is at twitter.com/Mario Prime. I have that in the doobly-doo. You can go check him out and see what he is all about.
Check a look.
But with that, this session is closed. Go play some indies.